Rabbi Wilhelm.
Hey, Ben Zion. This is what the after effects of Simchas Torah looks like. In the Yevem Freilach, this is the first week. It says now Yom Yom yesterday that this is the first real positive week because the whole week we live with Avram Avinu. I want to tell you something, a beautiful vart I heard somebody mentioning. There's a Gemara in Zvachim about last week's Parsha. Last week's Parsha says anybody who was in the Teva got saved. Kol asher b'charava, anybody who stood outside the Teva, yeah? So the Gemara asks a question. Gemara Zvachim, Daf Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis Chaim. Check it up.
I'll be right back.
The Gemara checks it. The Gemara says there is this big mammoth called Ruzila or Zila, a mass. It was much bigger than the size of the Teva. How did it? If it wasn't put into the Teva, and the Gemara and the pasuk says anything out of the Teva, Mesu died. How do we have? How did it survive? The Gemara gave one answer. Another try. Maybe his head stuck in. The Gemara says the head is bigger than the Teva, and the Gemara comes to a conclusion. He couldn't even fit his head in. They snuck in. He pushed in the tip of his nose into the Teva, so he's able to breathe the ear of the Teva, and that kept him alive. Okay, it's a fascinating story, right? But the lesson for this is when you want to connect to something positive, you don't have to necessarily be all the way there. Just smell the air of something positive. Connect to Avram Avinu. Just sniff the breath of what the air of Avram Avinu, around Avram Avinu, and connect to the tzaddik by a minimum, and you're already saved from the shtusim of everything that's going on.
Nice.
Good word, yeah? Anyway, so this week we talk about Avram Avinu. It's interesting, the Mishnah in Perkei Avos, one Mishnah after the second one in Perek Chamishi speaks about Avram Avinu. It says, Asara Dayres Minoyach ad Avram. That's one Mishnah. The following Mishnah is Asara Nisyonis Nisnasa Avram Avinu. Why in the first Mishnah you didn't title him Avinu? Asara 10 generations from Noach to Avram. And the next Mishnah you title him Avram Avinu. And the answer which is given that when does somebody get titled Avinu or father? When he left something over to his children. And when just the fact that there are numbers, a numbers game, the generations between Noach and Avram, 10 generations, that's not a Yerusha that he left over for his children to live with. But the fact that Avram Avinu had 10 nisyonos and he stood with bitachon, he stood through, he passed every nisayon, every test, and he passed that and he gave us the koyach and mesiras nefesh, that makes him Avinu, our father, and he gave us, at least in a minor way, the koyach and mesiras nefesh to go through all our challenges and turbulences during our lifetime. And that's why only when you speak about the next Mishnah, the 10 nisyonos, he's titled Avinu. It's a beautiful word. I think it's from the Netziv or Chaim Volozhin. It's a very, very beautiful word. So we are all one big happy family. We are all children of Avram Avinu. I read a story of a smart aleck who wasn't that religious, went over to a very religious Rav and says, Rav, we're all the same. We're all one big happy family. We all have the same tata. We all have the same father. So the Rav said, so in other words, let's marry our children or whatever. The Rav says, you know what? You have to know a little Yiddish for this response. We taka have the same tata, but we don't have the same mutter. Mutter has two interpretations. Mutter means we don't have the same mother. A mutter also means asur and mutter. What's mutter to you is not mutter to me. So if you accept the laws of the Torah, and you and only what's allowed al pi Torah you do, then we are really one big happy family. When you cut corners, then there's differences. Rahman al-Islam. Anyways, this is our father Avram Avinu giving us the koyach mesiras nefesh to survive throughout the times. In this week's parsha, we also find that Malkit, a very interesting pasuk in Chassidus, the Rebbe Sichos says a lot about this. Malkit Tzedek, Melech Shalem. Malkit Tzedek was the Melech of Shalem. I think the Midrashim say it's Yerushalayim. He brought to Avram Avinu. He gave him lechem v'yayin. You look at Rashi. Rashi says, "What's the significance? Why did he bring him lechem v'yayin?" But I heard a very Chassidish pshat. Lechem and yayin are two opposite types of food. Lechem is a type of food. The fresher it is, it comes out. You ever go to the bakery? You go to the bakery a lot. It smells. It's fresh out of the oven. Yayin, the longer it sits, the better it is. So lechem is a type of food that you need fresh. Yayin's a type of food that you need old. Malki Sholem, if a person wants to have the complete Yiddishkeit and be a complete person, he needs a balance of both. The fair and balanced. He has to have some of fresh, his own avodah, but your own avodah is not always enough. You also have to keep the tradition. You also have to have what's old. And the fair and balance is the Malki Sholem, is the complete thing. One last thing. We just celebrated, as we see, Simchas Torah, we celebrated Yom Tov. I saw a Shaila and Halacha. Why there's a mitzvah to be makbel pnei rabbi beregel. Go to your teacher. And they compare it to the mitzvah of Re'iyah on Yom Tovim, where you went to Beis HaMikdash 3 times a year to see the Eibishter. So there's also a mitzvah to go see your teacher, to be makbel pnei rabbi. Why don't you make a bracha if it's a mitzvah? Because just like by the mitzvah of Re'iyah, you don't make the bracha, you don't make the mitzvah a bracha by Kabbalas pnei rabbi. Why taka don't you make a bracha by Re'iyah when you went to the Beis HaMikdash? So the answer is, the Mishnah says, you only make a bracha on things that are limited. You finish, you did it, you're done, you make a bracha on the mitzvahs. Things that have no time limit, you don't make a bracha for. And the same is for a Kabbalas pnei rabbi. So listen to this question. So somebody asked, what are you talking about? Learning Torah is forever and ever. You have no time limit. V'agisa b'yom v'layla. And we make a bracha. Beautiful, beautiful answer. Even limit Torah has a limit. What's the limit? Ben Zion, I'm going to wait. The limit is, this is only a Hasidic Deher could say this answer. The Mishnah says you have to make sure that your maisim are merubim b'chachmasoi. In other words, you can learn. If you don't translate that into action, you don't stop and do then you're not complete. You sometimes have to stop learning to make sure that your actions are in there too. You're doing it. Just do it. And that's what all these koiches that we learn, we acquire during Simchas Torah or B'chlal, the month of Tishrei, and now we koich Mesiras Nefesh from Avram Avinu will give us the power to overcome all challenges in our life.
Oh man, beautiful.
You have